If we are using those properties for reference, one word to describe this is none other than so just buy any other one of these condos, you will make so much more today. This is going to be a very taboo thing to say, but buyers should. Hi everyone, my name is William from Own This Property and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will cover a shocking new development. Shocking because OMG, this is One Marina Gardens. Now this video admittedly has come out a little bit late because I've been spending the past few weeks really racking my brain. I swung from liking this development to not liking this development. So after crunching the numbers, doing the deep analysis and taking a look at it very objectively, I finally come to my conclusion, and do stay tuned to the end of the video to find out whether you should buy or skip One Marina Gardens. Firstly, I think it's important to look at things from the ground up. So we'll be using our standard OTP framework analysis to look at the micro factors first. This includes things like your site plan, your location, your amenities, the profit and supply in the area. And then we'll zoom out to look at the greater area more from the macro perspective on the upside potential and exit strategy. Enter One Marina Gardens. This will be the first development in the new Marina South Precinct. More on that later. So take a look at this perspective. You'll see that we are located directly next to Gardens by the Bay. And for now, you will enjoy great views in all directions, which includes the sea views, but all the empty plot of land around us will be future developments. So one thing that will be permanent would be your Gardens by the Bay and your Marina Bay Sands, your Marina Bay views. For the premium units, just take a look at these views. Imagine waking up to looking at Marina Bay or Gardens by the Bay. And this is a key unique selling point of One Marina Gardens. The views are something that I think not a lot of developments in Singapore can give you. Looking at the site plan, we have direct link to Marina South MRT, and most units actually face north-south, but notice how the larger or premium units are actually facing kind of like northwest, so you will get a little bit of west sun, but the trade-off here is that you will get Gardens by the Bay and Marina Bay views. And I think that a land plot of this size, you have over 900 units, there is no tennis court. So tennis courts are always a hallmark of an own-stay development, and I am kind of disappointed that OMG does not have that. On to the unit mix, and this is something that has really disappointed me. The high proportion of 1 and 2 bedroom units, almost 70%. So 1 and 2 bedroom units are often seen as like investor kind of buys, whereas your 3 and 4 or larger units are for own stay. And we will talk about this a lot later, but the government plans to make this place a place that people want to live in. So I'm kind of perplexed why Kingsford will build such a high number of 1 and 2 bedroom units. Maybe they are also kind of caught in a dilemma. So here's a summary of all the attributes, and traditionally something that is seen as negatively, but it's kind of different for Marina South because the government wants to make this a car-light, eco-friendly kind of place. And as a result, the car park provisions for OMG is only 47%. I mean, I do like the government's direction, sustainability, eco-friendliness, but probably if you live there, you will want to drive, or if your family and friends want to visit you, you want to drive. So just take note of this negative point over here. All in all, OMG has a lot of the good attributes that we want, but there are some negatives over here, so I dumbed down the score a little bit to score 4 out of 5. Moving on to the location, One Marina Gardens is situated directly next to Marina South MRT. And if you take a look at the map over here, you'll notice that there's a lot of empty plots surrounding us because Marina South is going to be a new precinct. And it is important to note that Marina South is a brand new precinct that is totally separate from the CBD. However, geographically, of course, we are located next to CBD. So in the later part of the video where we do a lot of the number crunching and analysis, we inevitably have to pull in some of the surrounding properties as a comparison. But very important point to note, Marina South is not the CBD. Why I stress this so much? Because CBD, as the name suggests, is a business district. But Marina South is not envisioned to be something like that. And over here, if you take a look at the URA master plan, the keyword used multiple times in that report is the word neighborhood. So the word neighborhood suggests that, this is not even like your Punggol Digital District or your Jurong Lake District, which is your CBD 2.0, but this is an actual neighborhood for people to live in. So I think that the best comparison from a homeowner's perspective wouldn't be the properties in the CBD, but something actually pretty close to us like Tanjong Ru, which is just across the Kallang Basin. This is kind of like a place that you want to live in. Positives, as mentioned, there will be a MRT directly linked to us. The station is already completed, but trains actually skip the station for now. They are waiting till there are more residents and activity in the area. The URA master plan is a very long document. I highly urge everyone to go and take a look and see the vision and illustrations that the government actually envisions this place to be. Again, this is going to be a neighborhood and not a business district. So the keywords that they use over here, you expect pedestrian walkways, there's going to be food options, public plazas, malls, sport facilities, childcare, and more. Hence, I do rate this location as having ticked a lot of the boxes that we want, but unfortunately, there are no primary schools in the area. So it scores a 4 out of 5. And before I move on to the next part of the video where I spend a lot of my time doing original research on One Marina Gardens, I really appreciate the support. So if you haven't done so, please click the subscribe button. Every single one of them counts and I really appreciate it. Let's now look at the resale comparables in the area to understand our price and also the profit attributes. OMG again is in a brand new area, so we are kind of forced to look at the properties surrounding us. Geographically, we are located next to the CBD and I have used the CBD properties as a reference. OMG will be the first mover in the Marina South area, but if we go into the larger Marina area, the last development over there was 12 years ago, which is none other than Marina One Residences. And not surprising, if we are using those properties for reference, one word to describe this is none other than terrible. And what's more surprising to me is that if you take a look at Marina Bay Residences, the 4-bedroom unit is actually selling at a loss. It has been a very long time where I've seen the average performance of a development or an area returning a negative return. On the other hand, the proximity to the CBD would mean that OMG will get to enjoy very similar rental yields. Over here, you can see good numbers across the board, especially for the smaller units. So the profits are bad. But understanding the URA master plan, we know that Marina South is not going to be another CBD. And I think that a better comparable in the area is just across the Kallang Basin at Tanjong Rhu. Why Tanjong Rhu is because very similar location, you have very similar vibes, you have sea views, it's very open, it's very airy. And most importantly, there's also no primary school within 1 km of Tanjong Rhu. So over here, pulling up the Tanjong Rhu properties, it actually gives me a lot of confidence that Marina South can have a similar future and returns as Tanjong Rhu area. On to the price, and Kingswood was a top out of 4 bids, and they paid actually a significantly higher price than the second bid. So while they bought the land high, as we know by now that whether the developer buys the land high or low, it does not necessarily translate to a high or low selling price. So in this case, Kingswood has already indicated that the average price will be about $2,850 to $2,900 per square feet. So this means that their profit margins aren't the best at One Marina Gardens. Next, let's use our signature price gap analysis to see whether that price is fair. For the resale developments, I've actually adjusted their PSF 5% higher to account for the URA harmonization. And taking a look over here, the 1-bedroom price gap is pretty fair at about $40 per square feet on average. For the 2 bedrooms, which I think are the unit types that will be in the most demand over here, the gap is actually slightly higher at $49 per square feet. Not the highest price gap I see so far, but doesn't really represent steep value as well. And for the 3 bedrooms, quite a similar price gap of about $44 per square foot premium per year. And one thing that really stood out to me in this analysis is Marina Bay Residences. It has a very narrow price gap, less than $30 per square foot premium per year. So potentially 3 bedrooms at Marina Bay Residences, I think it's actually quite good value right now. Assessing this factor in the OTP framework has been very difficult and mixed. On one hand, rentability is great, but profitability is bad because I use the CBD properties nearby. So for that reason, I only score it a 3 out of 5. But again, this is the new Marina South Precinct, and if it can replicate some of the success that Tanjong Rhu has seen, then this score would naturally be higher than what it is today. Next, let's move on to our signature supply analysis. This is where we take the number of units on sale divided by the total number of units of that particular type. The lower the supply ratio, the better for you. Here's where another apparent issue of the area pops up. If we use CBD as a reference, we get really bad supply ratio. Firstly, for the 1-bedroom, it is 15.7%. Next, for the 2-bedroom, which should be the more profitable layout, it gets worse at 18.5%. And then lastly, 3 bedrooms, which traditionally we've seen the same thing pan out for a lot of the developments. The larger the units, the lower the supply ratio. But this is not true for this area. Again, the ratio is 17.6%. So what does this mean for you as a buyer if you were to consider One Marina Gardens? Well, the CBD situation is clear. We have very high supply, and this is partly because a lot of the owners are pure investors. You also have a very high foreigner ownership and company ownership, as you can see over here. And on the demand side, a lot of the Singaporeans, especially families with kids, they just don't see themselves living in the CBD. So I think the more important question is, will One Marina Gardens be different? Firstly, the high foreigner or company ownership in new launches are a thing of the past since ABSD has been increased significantly for those buyers. So I think things will be very different for One Marina Gardens. Secondly, we need to picture and maybe even dream about a future where Singaporeans want to live in this area. So I asked myself that question, would I want to live at One Marina Gardens or want to live in Marina South? And actually, I think it's like a great place to live in, but the problem is that now is not the time for me to want to live there because I have a 1-year-old kid. Families with kids, especially young kids who have that proximity requirement to primary schools, or they need their parents or in-laws to take care of the kid, then definitely Marina South is not a place that they will consider. However, there's another wide and big group of demand out there who don't fall into this traditional mold. You have maybe families whose kids are already older, so already in secondary school or university, and they go to school themselves. You have also families like the dual income, no kids. And you also have retirees. And I actually kind of picture myself as a retiree wanting to live there. So I think that the demand for this place will be very, very different from what CBD is today. If you take a look at all these factors and try to rank this particular factor, I can't rate it highly and I give it a 2.5 out of 5. And before I move on to the last segment of the video, this is what I do for my clients. I spend a lot of time researching and analyzing properties, but more importantly for any new launch is the launch day strategy. Now imagine you're in a very pressure cooker environment. You need an agent that will be able to find the right unit, what floor to buy, what facing to buy, what premiums you should be paying for, and most importantly, what's the walkaway price. For any new launch for my clients, I've created the OTP Launch Day Ultimate Guide. So if you like my analysis thus far and you think this will be helpful, do reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to share my OTP Launch Day Ultimate Guide with you. And if you think that One Marina Gardens is just not the development for you, not to worry, because I've ranked all the new launches coming out in 2025 in my ultimate guide to new launches. So if you'd like a copy of that, just fill up the Google form link below and I'll be happy to send it to you. So things are not looking very good for One Marina Gardens at the moment. And this is where we arrive at the final factor, which is the upside potential and exit strategy. By now, you would have heard many of these buzzwords, transformation, first mover advantage, iconic. But do these actually translate to good performance or profits? Let's take a look. So transformation is definitely good, right? With transformation, you have more amenities. With more amenities, more people want to live in the area and hence better demand. And Marina South is going to be that kind of transformation and the scale is also huge. As stated in the URA master plan and also reiterated by our Prime Minister, the Marina South Precinct will be part of the southern coast of Singapore. And this particular area will be kind of like the poster child for Singapore in the decades to come. The key highlight over here again is that this is going to be a neighborhood and not a business district. So if you take a look at the master plan, you'll see keywords like, neighborhood plaza, community node, main square, and multiple public courtyards. So when you drive through CBD, you are kind of like drowned out by all these high-rise office skyscrapers. Your GPS just doesn't work. This area will not be like that. Marina South Precinct is going to be a residential area. If you ever want to compliment Singapore, I think that when it comes to executing an infrastructure plan, Singapore is definitely considered world-class. However, with all transformation, this is not something that will happen overnight, but probably takes decades to actually realize. A key component of that transformation will be the white sites, and opposite OMG, there is a white site that was previously placed for bid, but if you follow the news, you'll realize that after being put up on sale, there was only one bidder, and it did not go through. The government actually deemed it too low. Now, if the bid actually went through, then my assessment of One Marina Gardens will also change drastically, but unfortunately, it did not happen. So I interpret this news two ways. The first is actually positive. Essentially, the government is implementing kind of like an invisible floor price, not allowing any low bids. So this bodes well for One Marina Gardens. Probably the future land plots will not be significantly cheaper and support prices at One Marina Gardens. However, the second thing I interpret from this news is that developers are just not confident in this area yet. They are placed with so much restrictions. You have ABSD and things like that. You have higher financing costs, higher construction costs today. So they just deem that the risk to reward ratio in this area is not favorable, and they have stayed away from this location. Moving on to the next buzzword, first mover advantage. Now, what does this mean? Definitely, it is a fact that One Marina Gardens is a first mover in the Marina South Precinct, because take a look at the URA master plan. It is the first of 16 sites over there. But the question I'm asking is that, is first mover an advantage or a disadvantage? Let's take a look at the first case study where I've picked out 3 first mover advantage condos that have launched in the past. Now, Marina 1 was marketed as the first mover in the Marina area, and shockingly, it is still not profitable till today. I do have to point out that the layouts at Marina 1 is pretty bad. You have a lot of the units that are inward facing. You can even look into the offices across you. Now, Next Avenue South was also marketed as the first development in the Greater Southern Waterfront, and One Pearl Bank was marketed similarly, plus it was like an iconic building. But looking at the profits today, it is 3.1% and 2.3% per annum respectively. Yes, they are respectable returns, but there were so many other better options back then. I just took a few, for example, launches in the same period that have outperformed these two, such as Florence. Definitely Florence in Hougang Kovan is not the first mover, not the first property over there. Park Kamatis, you have over 6 resale properties over there. And even Midwood, which people kind of tend to hate on, has also outperformed these two first mover advantage new launches. So just buy any other one of these condos, you will make so much more today. And I think here's where the mistake that a lot of buyers actually do. Yes, transformation is real, transformation will happen, but when you buy, you must always have a holding period in mind. And if you buy a development that is the first mover in this transformative area, but that transformation is only like 10 or 20 years away, then naturally right now, maybe it's only been 5 years that has passed, you will not see that profits, you will not see that huge gains because the transformation has not been realized yet. So just take note, the exit strategy is very important. Do not fall into this trap. The second case study we'll look at over here and examine whether first mover actually gives you the lowest price. Well, if you are the first mover and you buy first, but it is the wrong entry price, then yes, essentially you are the first mover, but you do not have any significant advantage. And over here in this case study, very recently, there are 2 developments that because they can't sell finish and probably they were very close to the 5-year ABSD deadline, they gave significant discounts to sell the remaining unit. So the first buyers, essentially the first movers, did not do well. I can't imagine how painful it is. You buy a new launch and overnight you're sitting on 6-digit paper losses. That's why I think it's very important to do the research and understand whether this development will perform well in the resale market. Time and again, many stories out there and businesses fail because they were the first movers. Sometimes being the second mover is actually the better strategy. And I think that this article very succinctly points out that the first movers shape the landscape, but second movers change the game. And they've quoted many examples. Companies like Apple or Google were not the first movers. And I think that the same strategy should be applied to the Marina South area. It is actually better to be the second mover here. Hence, for now, I rate the upside potential and exit strategy only 3 out of 5. But if we were to stretch the time horizon even further, I think the sky's the limit for Marina South as well as One Marina Gardens. Finally, the conclusion. Who should be buying One Marina Gardens? Well, if you're thinking about buying something for own stay, there's a lot of pros. You have direct link to the MRT, definitely better and more efficient layouts than the resale comparables, and the unique USP, you have Marina Bay and Gardens by the Bay views that will be unblocked. Now, the cons on the other hand is that you have 47% car park provisions, there's no tennis court, there's no schools, and the amenities for now, they are still not there yet. On the investment side, the pros are you get high rental yield, you are sitting on a plot that will experience massive transformation, And some of the developments, if you compare in the resale segment, if you take a look at some of the layout types, especially the lower quantum entry price is a good thing for you. But on the other hand, for the cons, there is still low demand for the area right now. It will take time also to transform this area, so expect a longer holding period. And the last point is that there's also a too high proportion of 1 and 2 bedroom units. And the key recommendation I have over here, in order to avoid the same mistakes as Cascade Reserve or One Burnham, this is going to be a very taboo thing to say, but buyers should wait first. Let's be honest over here, One Marina Gardens is not your Parktown or Alta or even Lentor Central residences. It is not going to be sold out in a short span of time. So why I say wait first and take a second mover approach is because let's test the market, right? If there's launch day and it doesn't do very well, less than 10% sold, then clearly at this current juncture, this is not a development that is a good choice purely from an investment point of view. But let's say launch day, it does pretty well, maybe 30 or 40%. And even if the developer were to increase price post-launch, let's say they were to increase price 2% or 3%, I think that it's actually worthwhile to pay that 2 or 3% more. Take it as an insurance premium. You can actually see and let others test the market first. And if there's actually real traction, paying 2 or 3% more in the larger scheme of things, I think is pretty fair, because if it is a good development, definitely the developer would stage prices up even more in the future. Look, I think that One Marina Gardens has a lot of potential, but in order for that potential to be fulfilled, there are some key things that are still missing. So these 4 points are kind of like my recommendation or something that I hope will happen. The first thing is the shift in the mindset of buyers, right? Clearly, Marina South doesn't really take your traditional checklist of MRT, schools, HDB upgraders. This is definitely not the place. But this is actually a very own stay-centric, same vibes as Tanjong Rhu, right? So buyers also have to change their mindset and really appreciate that area. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just take a trip maybe this weekend, go and check out Tanjong Rhu. You will get what I mean, right? The second point is that, yes, the plan is huge, it's great, but the government also needs to have perfect execution over here. Because with perfect execution, developers gain confidence, consumers, buyers gains confidence as well. And third point, this should be coupled with government incentives. So the CBD properties also have a separate incentive scheme. I think that Marina South, clearly that the white side is not bidded very warmly by the developers. So there should be some like maybe incentive schemes to incentivize developers to want to build up this new area, lower the risk for them. Maybe it's a special zone. Instead of the ABSD being the rule is 90% sold within 5 years, maybe lower that percentage to 80%. That will be a lot more attractive and developers can see as a lower risk option. And then the fourth point that I want to share over here, something that I've been monitoring really very closely, is the rebound in the CCR segment. I've said time and again that entry price is the most important factor. And if you take a look over here, the gap between the OCR and CCR has narrowed significantly to $595 per square feet. And if you take a look at the RCR gap to the CCR, it is also the smallest in almost 20 years. The gap is only now at $295 per square feet. Looking at the recent GLS in Bayshore, the prices are really shocking. If you have been in the market trying to look for property over the past 1 or 2 years, I mean, what are you waiting for? You can clearly see where prices are heading. Based on the land bid price, analysts are expecting Bayshore in the OCR to sell at about 2.7 to 2.8K per square feet. And that price is actually very similar to One Marina Gardens. So to put it visually, just look at this map, look at where these two developments are at. One Marina Gardens at about $2,900 per square feet, and Bayshore, which is much further east, is $2,800 per square feet. Which one makes more sense? Leave your comments down below. I'll be very happy and interested to see what your response is. With the price gap of the OCR and RCR to the CCR now at one of its tightest point in history, I mean, eventually we think about resale buyers, right? Hey, if I spend maybe $100,000 more, $200,000 more, I can actually live in Marina South. And I think this is actually the key thing to take note over here. As prices get higher and higher in the OCR and RCR, and CCR has been underperforming for so many years, suddenly, right, in the past it's not an option, but suddenly, hey, it becomes a worthwhile option for buyers to consider. So I do think that all things considered, the risk to reward of CCR properties, but it has to be a good property, caveat, the risk to reward for such properties is very, very good right now. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. And if you like what you see and think we are a good fit together, and if you are a buyer, be it new or resale properties, reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to share more with you over a consultation session. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.